Welcome back for part 7 of the Raintime. Shockingly, we've made it pretty damn far in this. I'm hoping to go for at least maybe 10 chapters. We'll see how this works out. An hour a day of reading for me, it works. So let's hop right into it. I'm your host, hashtag Liizen. This is the Raintime. Colors float past the window panes, drifting along the facade like a fog, and on into the distance, where they smash against a car fender. The cheeks of a passing girl, a cypress tree, its needles spreading an emboldening odor. They flow further, over fields, over water, and over fields again, where a train goes by. And with metric resound, it deeply transverses the plains, while the landscape appears to distort. It's so pretty. Mountains arise. A little springbok adorns her blouse. Would you like something with that? A pastry, maybe? No, I shouldn't. Thank you very much, ma'am. The carriage passes villages, a graveyard, an old monument, shining beautifully in the sun, although its bronze plaque hasn't been maintained in ages, and the hundreds of names have faded away. But the grass has been carefully tended to. The closer I get, the more the green carpet transforms into a crawling microcosm, teeming with industrious life. Blades stand upright like the shards of glass, like obelisks, huge pillars of a lost civilization that holds up the firmament and protect the hidden world against danger from the skies. Beams of deathly radiation emanating shiftingly from the heavens in shades of white and yellow. Imagine what the ants must think. The rays scissor and separate, to dance around the invisible disk until they regroup on the other side. And the colors shoot off through cities, across meadows, along roads farther, faster, through, along, around, past, into infinite, eternal, all, everything. Yes, yes, indeed. Something stirs. The landscape fades, a rhombus appears that remains, lingering in my field of vision for days on end. Very gradually, impressions arise behind the figure, but the moment I concentrate on them, they start to fade away. The kite remains blurry, blinking at times. My old anchor point in this endless light world. I stare at it for 1,000 breaths until my senses grow weary and it begins to break apart. By the time I've regained my strength, it's gone. I remain silent for a very long time, afraid that I'll damage something irreparably if I exert myself too much. I'm in absolute stasis, perceiving nothing, experiencing nothing. No pain, no cold, no hunger. Only the briefest of thoughts pass through my mind. And due to the total absence of eternal influences, I drift towards a place devoid of everything. It's the place that I once described, lazing in my room in Ryberry, as a realm of golden grain. But now that I've returned, I no longer hear the rustling of fields. This world is empty now. Even the sensations I felt of peace and warmth are missing. But it's undeniably the same place. I remain like this for an eternity, floating in sublime equilibrium until the outside world gradually invades again. It starts as a gentle throbbing, as if there's something stuck somewhere in my bloodstream. I try to ignore it, but it swells, starts to pull, bringing me into a state of unrest. After a while, it's no longer tenable, and I surrender. Paradise escapes me. My body still works. Something stirs, for only a second. And we're back home. The faculty building looks exactly like my old school. I've neglected my studies for so long now, while there's an exam coming up next week. Time to open up Group Theory 3. The paradox, though expressing the intention of leading us towards a decentralized representation of praxis, through the formation of a multitude of physical representations opposing a more complex analysis from the point of view of its embedded conception. Is that, in my end, any attempt to complete a dialectual realization of the construct as a construct in itself constitutes beyondness, considering the totality of the whole as nothing, as nonetheless invalid? What does that mean, my friends? I have no clue. Because the reform of this discussion, as a sovereign breath of the principle of representation, it essentially opposes of the self-imposed framework of the transcendent increase, bearing Baaderberg's reservations. It is probably Baaderberg himself who is a consequence of this, a protagonist of an unlimited, oh boy, this is a hard one, indisputability arising from a field of tension between possibility and promise. I don't have to turn the pages or even look at the paper as quickly as the words fly over my retina. It's important to bear in mind here that since there is no specified foundation for such an urbanization, the congruent development of a luminous sphere is context dependent here, regardless of any attempt to align it, since the river run's track doesn't assume reduced relativity, taking into account a quantifiable development in relation to the subject, in multiple finitudes, identical. The invigilator has her hair in a butter braid with a chest cut. Oh man, here he goes, going at people again. Could it be an issue that I'm still studying during the exam? I need to hide my books somewhere, under my chair or in the floor. Almost forgot to put my name on the paper. Cattle is grazing between the islands. I think I could do it. I paint so beautiful. Could paint so beautifully. I look around and see. What shall we go with? A sprawling urban landscape or a wasteland? I like wastelands. Never know what you'd find out there. Recently, the images have been lasting longer. I'm in multiple places in the same time. In the Otter, at the Square, my room, the faculty building, at the N723, all simultaneously. I feel the sea breeze and smell my bed. All the places seem so palatable, so carefully arranged, sorted by location. Okay, if you've actually seen me play Life is Strange, the last episode, episode 5, Polarized, is kind of like this. When you transcend through time a certain way, while none of us should be screwing with quantum physics within itself, you alter reality, you're screwed. Things like this do happen. I prefer to call them anomalies, but what they're actually called, I'm unsure. But I think that's what our main guy's going through right now. The impressions are expanding steadily. I'm all over the city, in every street, in Rybury, Abbotsford, and places I've never visited before, but that still feel familiar, as if I've always known what they look like. I hear words spoken in unknown tongues and travel through alien worlds and deserted wastelands. The more accustomed I become to these experiences, the faster they increase in scope. I explore the deepest troughs of the ocean and climb the highest mountains, reaching as far as the moon and the stars beyond the Milky Way, into galaxies of immeasurable size, with the sun as a pinprick in all-encompassing darkness. Suddenly, somewhere, a light comes in. I gave you a dog to look after, William, but what did you do with it? You got him drunk and dragged him along in your inexorable path of destruction. I didn't mean to. I wanted to help him. That poor animal. He had a look in his eyes. I wanted to show him a better world. A better world? What would you know of those matters? I wouldn't. Indeed, you failed. I gave you a dog and a woman to look after. What more could a man want? They're both gone now. I've been feeling so ineffectual lately, as if the world weren't real. I wanted... Nonsense! Look at me, William. The cat's staring at me from behind the curtain, with piercing, furious eyes. His short-haired coat is shining like a glass exoskeleton. I didn't want her. This is not the time to apologize. Nothing you can say can make it right. And to think how superior you felt. You're a murderer. Lower than the dogs. You wanted to be a wolf? Well, forget it. She was so delicate, beautiful like a butterfly on a summer's day. I only touched her once. Butterflies break when you grab for them. Some things can't be repaired after they break. I had so much faith in you, William. Maybe it's not over yet, cat. No. Get that out of your head. You've had enough. I'm turning off the lights. Go back to sleep. But go think about what you've done. I don't want to hear you anymore. Just one more thing. That night, before it happened, what did you say to me in my dream back then? I don't know what you're talking about. While I was sleeping on the floor, you said something to me. Something I agreed with tremendously, but I've forgotten. What was it again? Sleeping on the floor? You could have caught a cold, and I don't remember it at all. But it was probably a different cat. And with 2 jumps, he's through the door. It's glowing dark around me again, and I prepare for a long night. William's lost his mind. I'm in the city, but the streets are filled with blind facades. as far as the eye can see. The buildings are unfinished, reduced to single geometric shapes. As I wander further through the faceless city, the colors begin to fall apart. The distinction between buildings and air disappears. Everything around me morphs into a pure black canvas onto which architecture is drawn into a thin white line. My eyes are heavy, and it's by torch alone that I further explore the strange world. But now that I'm blind, my senses of touch appear to reveal much more detail than I could ever see. The buildings have cold windows with warm plastic frames. As I feel the rough brick walls with my fingers, the dead skin rubs off my hands. The canals are wet, and the cars are hard, and the asphalt of the road feels sticky. Wow. But the vegetation, it's the softest fabric. The plants and the shrubs feel like woven textile, with yarn that's sometimes fluffy and sometimes smooth. Even the bark of the trees emits a warm, leathery sensation. I wrap myself into the cozy opulence and dwell through the labyrinths of patterns that the canvases show me. It's so comfortable that I drift away. It's so hot in my room. Somewhere, a light comes on. It's almost funny to imagine what happened. So many a drunken night has gone by with me ending up in bed safely. The curtains round my bed are a white polyester. I imagine the material sliding along my skin like touching a wet shower curtain with your body. Blech, can't stand that feeling. And now my bed linen is made of white synthetic sheets that I slowly drown in, unable to get out. The whole world reduced to a spotless sheet of plastic. When you've been sleeping for a very long time, you end up painfully aware that your body leads a life of its own. The tubes in my nose and wrist constantly reminding me that I've been treated like an object for weeks, looked after by machines. It must have been quite a show when they scraped me off the tarmac. I hope traffic wasn't held up for too long. I've been trying to convince myself that I've lost my memory. At first, it was actually true, but in the meantime, so much has returned that I've resorted to fooling myself. At times, I wonder if they know what happened, but only thinking about it fills me with panic. And then I steer my mind away from the subject as to not delay my recovery. So he's in the hospital. Okay. A woman is at my bedside. At first, I just sensed a solitary presence hanging in the air every time she'd been. But today I was awake when she visited. I feigned sleep because the confrontation seems too much for me now. I have no idea what she knows. I haven't seen any of my family or friends yet, but that woman keeps returning. She leaves little bits of paper on my bed. I want to study them, but the nurse keeps throwing them away. She has curly, black hair and an earthen scent like wet concrete. I think that scent was how I sensed her in my sleep. It's very different from the disinfectant smell that usually hangs in here. She moves her hands along my body when she's sitting here. She's even touched my face once, stroked my stubble. I can make up that I'm the only one who can clarify what happened on that morning in January. That she's the mother of the woman in the blue sedan. I think my dude jumped in front of that fucking car. It seems better for everyone that I stay asleep. The light is hurting my eyes today. The awning block out of the worst in the sun, but in the middle of the day, the curtains turn my bed into a cathedral of light. I threw up. The nurse cleaned it away. Poor guy. He's not very talkative, but neither am I. He told me I'm doing better, though I'm not too sure myself. I'm sleeping more now than when I just woke up. Next to my bed, there's a little nightstand, which has stuff on it, sometimes. There's not much on there today, but there was a cup and an empty flower vase there last week, and there's a copy of the Evening Mirror that's been lying there for ages. I think it's the newspaper I'm in. She visited again this afternoon. With her words and the white curtains, it always feels so sacred around us, as if we're in a private chapel. Time and time again, she asks for forgiveness. For me. For my sin. She thinks I attempted suicide that morning by jumping in front of that light blue car, I called it. I wish I could explain to her that I didn't want to die at all, that I wanted to live, for once. It sounds perverse, after the fact. The nurse has been trying to keep her away from me. He says she's visiting too much, that there's nothing she can do. But she's so grateful that her daughter saved me, that I wasn't lost to eternal damnation. Can't she see that I drove her daughter to the exact same act that she's accusing me of? William. I've been growing tired of this perpetual feeling of guilt. I'm trying to come up with a version of the event in which I'm not so much in the wrong. One of the curtains is open today. At first, a strange pain came out when I moved, as if I were a gardening appliance that had been left out in the rain. I can't look around for too long due to the light, but I've seen an old man lying next to me. It could very well be that there are 4 of us in the room, though I don't have a view of the beds opposite me. And around me, I see how everything lives. Okay. More and more often, I'm overcome by the realization that the objects are talking to me. The mug, the phone, the glove dispenser. Am I the only one that sees all those babies? That's kind of creepy. That's very creepy. The curtains can stare at me for hours on end, with fascination in their gaze, as if they know me and wish me the best. But I can hear them murmuring behind my back whenever I'm not looking. Last night I dreamt the whole world was alive. I cycled through the streets, and every building, every car, every paving stone had a human face. They stared after me and spoke among themselves. They all had youthful features and dark brown hair. Because it was her. It is her. She's present in all the things around me. I cried when I first realized it. She's still there and lives on in everything. Since that dream, I see it, crystal clear, in the vase, the newspaper, and the ceiling lamp. Her fine features follow me every day. They greet me in the morning, smile at me, discuss my thoughts. But as I mentioned, I've been pondering how I could make it all a little more bearable before I truly wake up. I think I'm almost there. After all, it must be possible for someone to create so much beauty through a single deed that it atones for all the evil in the world. A small amount of good can banish out all the darkness around it, like how you can sterilize water forever by adding just a single drop of bleach. I'm not drinking bleach water, dude. The world wouldn't be a better place if the accident hadn't happened. Because by saving me, she has, in 1 second, done more good than all the misery I will ever cause. Saving a life is so much more special than taking one away. The one more than makes up for the other. And the hopes she has created absolves me, in a sense, from the grief I've caused everyone. Let me put it differently. This earth, over which we roam, between windmills, under transmission towers, it's the outskirts of industry in which our daily lives unfold. Everything carries the dull patina of technical ingenuity. It's durable, built to last a lifetime. Sometimes I feel ashamed to exist among all the colossi and wires that surround me. It is a realm of steel, of iron bolts and endless concrete. Everything so well thought out, every millimeter of this earth, that I wonder if I even have any choices to make. Sometimes I'm guided for days by only my most primitive urges, but the world keeps turning and nothing ever changes. It's in an insignificant hinterland that all our lives go by, each and every one of them, day in and day out. They're small lives, meaningless in the grand scheme of things. The delay in the morning rush hour that I caused could have been a bigger setback, in the end, than the life that I took. And the whole device has been turned so finely that it's actually not that strange for a rebellious student to try and see if it can break, so that for once, due to his actions, it may all turn out differently. How reassuring it is to know that some acts have real consequences, that I can do something that stops everything for a moment, that I can touch the lives of other people with my choices, even if it's with devastating results. It's an ugly thought, not a thought I can share with anyone, because nobody will understand. However, I draw a lot of courage from it. I've even noticed that I'm recuperating faster than before. But I am guilty. I know I'm guilty. Therefore, I worship her every atom. I owe my life to her, and that is why I see her now, in everything around me. Every breath of air that I breathe because she wanted me to. I wish it had struck me earlier. The dog should have been enough. That poor dog. It's been snowing this morning. Snow in May? Can you imagine? I drove through it, never seen anything like it in my life. They predicted a warm summer, because the winter's been so mild this year. It was just sleet, a few flakes, but still, snow is snow. Incredible. I saw it. The nurse opened the curtain for us. They spoil you here. It's a nice hospital, by the way. They have their own post office in here. Did you know that? I love buildings like these. Hospitals, airports, they have everything here. 24 hours a day, like a small town. Like a big retirement home. It's the same with cruise ships. Cafeterias, the shops, the offices. It's always spotless in the aisles. I can imagine us heading that way as a society. I mean, just look around you. Everything's white. Squeaky clean. You see that? When you press the button, a rubber glove comes out. I need one of those at home. I mean, everything's changing. Spring snow, male nurses. I think we'll end up living in doomed cities in the future. Oh, domed cities, my bad. You're scared. In Dubai, they're very far ahead of us. You know that? Their shopping centers flow into apartment complexes, which are connected to the schools and offices. Everything to protect them from the scorching sun. It goes above 40 degrees Celsius all the time over there. You're afraid of the dark. Yes. A long silence. I was afraid. I was the first one here. Do you know that? Right that day. They said it would take a while. Silence. That it would be a long time before you'd wake up. I've been scared. You went too far, went terribly. He has a gray-brown ring beard, hamster cheeks, a light blue shirt. As he hugs me, I smell something. His body odor. A combination of vinegar and ash. And I could have recognized that smell. I don't mean that I actually recognize it, just as I could have. And that notion that his scent could evoke heartwarming memories, that idea alone makes me feel very small. I've been worried about you. You wrecked everything. But maybe try a new major somewhere else. In September, if you're better by then, don't give up. You'll get the best help you can wish for. The university is the same, by the way, with its cafeterias and the campus. Those were the days. In 100 years' time, we'll be living in domed cities. Just take my word for it. And not only that, we'll live anywhere you can imagine. On Mars, on the North Pole, on the moon, at the bottom of the sea. But we already live on the bottom. Below ground. On mountaintops. Of the sea. Wait, is that it? Really? Oh, wow. I mean, he's not wrong. That was awesome. Yeah, for the artists who did what they did, you guys are freaking amazing. I wish I could draw like that. I mean, I used to, but not as much anymore. I do a lot of different things, jack of all trades over here. But that was kind of great. It sucks things happened the way that they did for William. But I guess the topic, do you believe things could have been different? I mean, I see this as, if you've seen The Matrix, that's what I feel like I can compare it to. How do you know if the reality that you are living in isn't some distorted, I don't know how to really define it too much. But what I do know is that if the things we endure every single day could be part of a multiple reality, you know what I mean? Let's have that kind of conversation. A guy jumps in front of a car. What happens? Okay, somebody saved him. That person is now dead. What events will succumb upon that? You know what I mean? What happens? You know, perhaps if that man had lived or didn't try to kill himself, you know, maybe he would have gone on that day and gotten shot. Or that girl who saved him would have never come into contact with him. Say she would have gone on about her day. Or later on in that day, she would have been robbed. You know what I mean? Like when you change the course of time, not even that just, I don't know how to really put it into words, but I wonder if you guys can. What do you personally think about the decisions that we make? Do they alter time? Do they alter our decisions? Do they alter anything? Does it make a difference? Are our fates set in stone? Let me know what you think.